Hey everybody, thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to continue on clarifying further in depth 2009. I will label this 2009 number 3. I will always be fully transparent. I've been extremely fortunate, extremely rewarding, always being based on exactly honesty, integrity. I will always tell the truth. Always. My history speaks for itself, how I was able to gain what I understand some pretty impressive business experience there. Anyhow, let me continue on. So basically it all started, as you know, back in late 2008, and by the time it was March or April. What happened there? I'm fully aware. Very healthy dynamics. I'm fully aware of that. I toughed this out. It was always business success when he contacted me, and I'm going to say I'm fully aware of the dynamics of the professionalism, and yet, eventually I began to catch on to that pattern. Okay, I can't even believe it. So I started investing some time into what I'm going to really cover more in 2010. Okay, and that went on with Robert, as I mentioned, for a year and a half, and then another year and a half. It's 3 years. I had no idea why I couldn't figure this guy out. I do know there tended to be hierarchies. There tended to be tremendous, it always would be in that professional stance, the initial contact. And then was hours upon hours with, I really toughed it out, I believed, and yet Stephanie would, and it's all in the emails. I can fully substantiate this. It's going to be impossible for the only thing that's going to come out here is absolutely the truth. Me fully accountable for who I am and what happened here. I'm working with extreme time restraint to cover all of this. And I think you're going to find that I'm very stable as of today. This time's being invested as wisely as possible relative to where I am at this moment today on October 11, 2012. In any event, there were so many emails and so many Facebook conversations. He said, really, I mean, this is top professionalism is what he emphasized. And yet, I have to honestly admit, as this went on, the triangles that were being set up, it was taking components of completely irrelevant substance, and it continued to escalate for a year and a half more. Okay? I'm fully aware of this Dr. Jekyll, Dr. Hyde. I didn't understand it at the time. I toughed it out, and I mean a lot. Basically a hierarchy, and I'm fully aware that anything was codependent. Absolutely not. It took on that type of pattern. It was all based on partnering up. But in reality, though, by the time, I had 150,000 files. I don't know how much data loss occurred there, but I've retained a good chunk of that. How much is there in that first year? I don't know how many thousands. Or if it's hundreds. No way. I was not able to log into Facebook. There was constantly a huge blow up and then making up again. That kind of thing. I toughed that out a couple of times. This went on for, it didn't quite go on for a year and a half, but it sure continued. It continued. It was always. He would say we're not friends, and it would be a couple of hours on that, and then we'd make up, and just, I toughed it out. I believed, until eventually, I would say this went on, I began to catch on to the pattern probably 5-6 months later. Okay? I have to reconstruct all these files. Oh, but there's plenty to substantiate exactly what I'm stating. The ending of those emails is always, a couple of hours, and then I'm saying, if we can get off this personality stuff, that pretty much substantiates the replies I made. There will be absolutely no maneuvers, regardless of how many there are. This truth is going to come out, and I'm sure it will be taken in the most serious nature at this point forward. The banksters with Gino Combs and Stephanie, it was completely like relating to other people, coming back to me what's between us. That was always business success. It always started out with that in the most professional context. By the time it's said and done, great big blow up. And it went on. How many times did I have to repeat until I really began picking it up? All of the documentation and evidence I am retaining. It's going to be tremendously time consuming to reconstruct it. All of it. Some of it will be indexed to very easily. Just do a search and get to it. I got to say, what I have on Robert McNulty is a huge amount of information. It's crazy. Until I started learning more. Obsessions about another person is absolutely insane. There was something that missed my blind area, that was played upon. Man, when I can tell you one after another, it was always setting me up to play into it. It took me a while to catch on to that one. It took a while to really understand what was going on behind there because it was hard to figure him out. But no, always professional in exactly the context. A tremendous amount of hierarchy and equivalent to a victim. Something that happened a long time ago, I understand. Fully substantiate all of that. Phone calls in the middle of conversations between two other people. I did not understand it. Maybe the phone was accidentally, that was, but it happened, how many times? 10? Phone calls to Gino for me to listen in, but he didn't know I was there. It just, on and on and on and on. I would say, relative to the professional career counseling, probably picked back up by the time, I don't know, I have to reconstruct those files. I got them. It's there. Everything's there. It became very evident in 2010. How much more can I share? How much more can I retrieve from that time period? It can be 100%. I really have to give it a thought. And when those files are, able to be accessed, the truth is going to come out here. There's no maneuvers possible on this one. I have to say, honestly, by the time it's said and done, I don't know when I actually said stalking, but it was quite a bit later. I was scared to answer my phone, God forbid, because he wanted to partner up. But at the same time, it would be hours upon hours. I don't know when that actually happened. Did it happen after, 7 months? I mean, it took a while to learn it and experience to understand it. But yes, I fully extended the trust, and it was absolutely at the highest level of career success in the most professional context, at least how it started. By the time it's said and done, nobody even would talk to me on my Facebook page. The depths of that. It's Dr. Jekyll, Dr. Hyde, and this constant setup. I began to learn and understand it. I still didn't know the basis behind it for a while there. How long? Probably very much relative to somebody else in a similar situation. I'm a very trusting person, and that's all in proper context. I understand I've only had good experiences, and yet God only knows how someone can have a situation. I can tell you between 1986 and 2001, that was very wisely invested. You go back to files and yet here I am with $75,000, and the next time I realize is getting the banksters back. God only knows what was between third and fourth parties, but I'm taking a guess though. My reputation is quickly slipping away. Boy, am I being very straightforward. Again, the files, that's what's important to understand. I'm going to be able to retrieve bits and pieces, but it's going to be up against maneuvers where eventually that truth will guaranteed come out regardless of how much resistance. I would not, and I have to be very careful. I don't know if it was 2 years later or 2.5 years later when I finally contacted Highland Park Police and began contacting up north relative to what I'm going to disclose in context of 2010 as this continued. And it continued again in 2011. No reason for that. None. Absolutely none. This could have all been success. As certainly a secondary source in the position I was in, unheard of, to end up where it's going to be as of today and in the future. That was serious stuff. That's all I can say. I'm going to be very careful. I'm going to say that. Was it to play in for me to file stalking charges, or is it in reality something related to partnering up for 3 years? I took a while to learn and understand it. I guess 7 months, I would take a guess, just as a good feel. About 7 months, I would say. It's a pretty good feel. I didn't understand it. I couldn't understand why his personality was constantly changing until much later. Much, much later. An obsession in another person is outrageous. To share and relate things in common, though, in a good, healthy outcome, you got it all. I think you got a pretty good feel of my personality by what I experienced earlier and what I've related, where I was able to gain that experience. That was exactly in the context I was taking it with Robert. There was no reason. I toughed it out. I toughed all of that out. Just raging fights with Stephanie, fault and blame and cause. I couldn't understand it. And third parties came into the picture. Like what I was saying that would just be between those two people became third and fourth people. And before you know it, people are feeding me back. I don't know what on Facebook. All I know is now nobody will have anything to do with me. 3 years later, absolutely no one. It's amazing I found, with these fights, that it would be just wiped clean. I didn't forget it. It was wiped clean, like it didn't even happen. It was a constant hierarchy where literally it was almost a persecutor and victim. Quite a few times. Eventually I caught on, though, that career success in professional context was to gain control over me. It got to the point, and I would have to reconstruct the files at the exact date that happened. It was quite a bit longer. As I mentioned, I was actually almost scared to pick up the phone, because it would be hours upon hours on that substance. Yes, I didn't do anything. I can say, let me retrieve that again. How much more time? I got to keep this down in about 15 minutes. Okay. It was literally, I'll do it on the next video update, I think, on that one, unless it comes back real quick. It's right there. Oh, of course, all the files and everything. Everything. Every bit of it can be reconstructed in the future for the truth to come out here. What I can say here is, it's right there. I'm trying to retrieve it. It was always. Oh, yes. Like there's a need to destroy me. Yes. Bankrupt me? I wouldn't believe it. And yet, particularly the second year and a half, I was starting to get familiar with these setups. Until finally one day in 2012, wait until you hear that, the truth will absolutely come out. I can absolutely reconstruct the 2009 if I'm saying what I'm saying. I would never believe. I was very forgiving, very, and somehow it just got completely, the slate was clean. Not with me, it wasn't. I have to reconstruct it. But I found that pattern. I started to understand that it was just, what happened with, always the highest level of expertise, career success, exactly in that context, what I originally described. And then it would be almost gaining control over me. There was many hours. How much? It could be 20, 30, 40 hours. Always owing so much what he gave me. Make sure you absolutely, really, I didn't do that. I found it to be odd. Completely irrelevant substance. There was a great big blow up with fault and blame and caused it all. Always that pattern. I didn't know he was high every time. Fully substantiated. I didn't have the slightest clue for over 2 years later, when it was probably longer than that. It was probably more 2.5 years, I'm taking a guess, later. That might explain why I can't figure him out, and the slate is wiped clean. Of course, there was a huge blow-up. I believe that chiropractor and private practice is really the basis behind that, though. Serious. I first forgave. I had no interest in filing anything. A restraining order? What? I didn't even know. And sue me? How in the world can you concoct something like that? Well, let me tell you something. Let's go on to 2010, 2011, where it went on 2012, when I did finally learn. Went on that long. Robert contacting me, utmost, the highest level of professional expertise. Good, solid career outcome. That's what that $70,000. I have all the files to fully reconstruct and support exactly what I'm stating here. You look at those emails. Look at all of that. It's all there. I don't have his part, but you can see my reply. And it was completely, it would almost have to be I was put in an absolute survival mode. That began to take shape in 2010, with obviously where I picked back up. By then, the damage has already started, well on the way. How much time? Good. Thank you for investing the time to understand this substance. We'll continue on with 2009, number 4. Thank you.